Yo, I'm sorting through some heinous haters like a pooper scooper. I'm just trying to take my life like a Koopa Trooper. I'm Double Mario, that mean I'm super. And I'm freaking dangerous like a Chupa Cabre.
What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMDG on the YouTube.com down there, you know by now. And today, no Aether Revolt spoilers, so I figured I'd sneak in a quick budget deck tech on you, because I like doing them, and you like watching them. But usually by this point in the season, you would see a deck tech that's more reactionary than anything else, you know. Oh, we gotta beat Aetherworks Marvel, how do we do it? Here's the thing. Well, it turns out Aether Revolt's coming out in a few weeks at this point. So instead of doing a reactionary deck tech that will be more or less invalid in a couple of weeks, I figured I would do a fairly safe deck tech that's more aggro based and just cares about turn sequences, isn't that interactive, and doesn't really care what's on the other side of the board. And with that in mind, I figured I'd do a deck tech that's a long time coming. This is budget green-white humans. Well, green-white humans has been around for a while at this point, and the cards for it are all like still in the format, just it's fallen off the radar for a lot of players. So cards that used to cost a pretty penny, like Thalia's Lieutenant, for example, now only cost like $1.50. So really good deal on this deck. We can play the whole main deck and the lands for 25 bucks. And it's still really competitive. This thing can win an F&M for you. So let me show you the creatures. So let's start with the 1-drops, and the 1-drops are like half of the creatures, and there's 33 creatures. So let's show you a few of these at the same time for the sake of time. First of all, we're going to play 4 Town Gossipmonger, 4 Thraben Inspector, and 4 Expedition Envoy. And I've actually got another 1-drop I'm playing, but I want to showcase her a little bit more. This is just your basic suite of white 1-drops. You know, Town Gossipmonger can get fairly big. That's pretty cool. Thraben Inspector gives you the clue. That's awesome. And Expedition Envoy is just a 1-mana, 2-power creature. Basic 1-drop suite here for white creatures, and they all have different reasons why you'd want to play them, and they're all fairly strong cards. But the 1-drop I want to showcase a little bit is the 2 copies of Oviya Pashiri in the deck. Oviya's really good in this. I don't know if people have really seen her potential yet. A lot of people have said, well, Oviya might be good, but what does she go in? And I can agree to some extent with that. But if you're building green-white humans, I would definitely pack a couple of copies of this. It's not only a decent turn 1 play. You know, you put a Thalia's Lieutenant out turn 2, this becomes a 2/3 that can generate tokens for you. And since we're playing so many creatures in the deck, then once we get 5 mana, that other ability of hers, that second ability, can be really important to just put like 6 6s out every single turn and provide some inevitability. If your opponent can't interact with that, they're going to lose the game because you get a huge guy every single turn. And at the worst, you get a small guy every single turn, developing your board and making cards like Always Watching like way better. So I really like Oviya, and if she's got a few turns to do her thing in the mid game, she can get really good. And one more thing, she allows you to do stuff on turns where you like draw a land and you can't do anything otherwise. Even if you get a bad top deck, Oviya's there to make like a 5/5 for you. That's awesome. Into the 2-drops here. We're just going to go ahead and get this out of the way. 4 copies of Thalia's Lieutenant. Probably the strongest card in the deck if you're going to run this human strategy. The entire reason we're running 14 1-drops is Thalia's Lieutenant. You know, we want to play a 1-drop human, turn 2 Thalia's Lieutenant, and make that 1-drop bigger, swing in. And any humans that we play after that make Lieutenant bigger. Not only is it good on turn 2, it's good on like turn 5, 6, or 12 to make all your other humans bigger when it comes into play. Thalia's Lieutenant is just very good. Like, do I even have to cover Lieutenant? Like, you're playing humans, play all the Lieutenants. I'm going to play 3 copies of Hamlet Captain in this deck, which he doesn't get a whole lot of love, honestly. I don't see him in a lot of green-white humans lists, but since this is a budget list, he's a really good idea, man. He's got bear stats, you know, 2 mana for a 2/2, decent deal right there. And when he swings in, he anthems all of our guys. Like, what's not to like about that? Even if he dies, they'll still keep the +1/+1 bonus until the end of the turn. And this guy can make, like, 4 creatures swinging in really good, especially on top of an Always Watching or something. So I'm not going to play like all the Hamlet Captains or anything, but I'll play some Hamlet Captains. I think the guy's pretty good. I've got a couple of 2-ofs that I want to play here, starting with Duskwatch Recruiter. The only reason I don't want to play more of him is because he's not like always a human, which kind of sucks. But even if he does flip, then he allows you to play your 2 and 3 drops for a mana cheaper. So that's pretty awesome. And he gets bigger himself, you know. But while he's in his unflipped stage, he's a human and he leads to card advantage. I mean, 33 creatures in the deck. Whenever you use his ability, you're going to hit something. So Duskwatch is good, and if I wasn't trying to keep the budget down to 25, I might play that 3rd or even 4th copy of Recruiter. But the fact that he becomes a wolf sometimes and sort of fudges up the synergy a bit, I don't like that too much either. 2 or 3 copies is probably the right choice, but play some amount of him because his card advantage ability is so ridiculous. I want to finish the 2 drops with 2 copies of Hanweir Militia Captain. Just the 2 copies because she doesn't often do anything the turn she comes into play and really doesn't do a whole lot on curve other than be a 2/2 for 2. And she's a human, all that's good and all, but doesn't really do a whole lot in the early game for us. I'd much rather drop her turn 4 or 5 and flip her the following turn because once she transforms, she's really good, you know. Another grindy piece, just like Oviya Pashiri. She'll put out a creature every single turn, and she herself will get bigger along with it. So all of that is really super awesome. Card is nice, but again, I don't want to play all of the copies of it. And I just want to point out, by the way, when you have an Oviya Pashiri and this out, like, things get kind of crazy. Even if all you draw is a land for the turn, you're still creating 2 creatures, and you're making the Militia Captain bigger by 2 every turn. All that is good synergy. The only 3-drop creature in the deck is the playset of Fairgrounds Warden right here. I always like, especially in aggro decks like this, a creature, a body, that can also remove things from the battlefield. By the way, I don't really care if it's not a human. It's still a guy that can come down turn 3 or any time after that and immediately remove a threat off the board while providing a body. All that is awesome. And we'll finish the creatures, finally, by talking about the playset of Heron's Grace Champion in the deck. Really good top-of-the-curve thing that at instant speed can give our guys just this huge buff. And lifelink, like lifelink is so nice on this. You can do it when your opponent doesn't expect it, you know. Swing in, they make blocks, boom, Heron's Grace Champion. That is a devastating play sometimes. Or if you're facing down what looks like a disadvantageous combat situation on the other side of the board, then they can swing in with their smug little smile on their face, and you can Heron's Grace Champion and ruin their whole day. HGC also goes good with all of our other buffs. We swing in with a bunch of creatures and a Hamlet Captain, give them all a +1/+1 from the Captain. Always Watching is already out. We get another +1/+1. Heron's Grace Champion comes down. Suddenly, all of our creatures are, 3/3 plus whatever ability or, power toughness they already had. They have lifelink now. Things get super duper nasty. Imagine if you have 2 Hamlet Captains swinging in the situation. These kind of things happen, and they're gross. Believe it or not, there's actually room to play some spells in this deck. Not a whole lot. And I'll go ahead and get Stasis Snare out of the way here. Stasis Snare we're just going to play 3 of in the deck, but I want to play some kind of removal to get things off of the battlefield. That's important. And we might as well play the thing that's in our colors and has a way of taking down Emrakul if we happen across a turn 4 or 5 Emrakul, which is a reality sometimes. And to finish it off, we're just going to play 2 copies of Always Watching in the deck. This not only keeps the budget down just playing the 2 copies, but we've also got Heron's Grace Champion and we've got Hamlet Captain in the deck. So we don't necessarily need a static anthem effect that's not already on a body like our other ones are. I like that our other anthem effects are on bodies. I think that's cool. But Always Watching, I like that it's static. We don't have to have just played the Heron's Grace. We don't have to have attacked with the Hamlet Champion. I like a static +1/+1 to all of our guys that also keeps them up on defense, which is important against some decks. Here are the lands, right here. Pretty easy, honestly. We just play some Fortified Village. If you got some dough, take out some basic lands or the Tranquil Expanse and put in, Canopy Vista or something. Go ahead and fill out the playset of Fortified Village. Easy ways to upgrade this mana base, but this one definitely gets by. Here's the sideboard right here. A lot of this is fairly self-explanatory. Blossoming Defense against removal, duh. Fragmentize and Appetite for the Unnatural against artifacts, of course. Clip Wings, not only against things like Avacyn and Smuggler's Copter, but also a way to take out Emrakul. Another 4 ways of doing that is also good. We've got the Thalia in there against vehicles decks if you happen to come across them, which you should at your F&M. I know they're a fairly popular deck at F&M. And then Sigarda, Heron's Grace, is in there not only against decks that will target us occasionally, but also decks that are pretty heavy on removal, and we'll put our guys in the graveyard. We can just get tokens out of them, which is a pretty good deal, and we get a giant flyer, too. And here are your power rankings right here. A final score of 60 points, not bad, for a deck that's only going to cost you 25 for the main and the lands, and another about $5 for the sideboard. So you're talking right around 30 bucks. To build this deck. It's still going to be in the format after Aether Revolt comes out, and it probably won't have to change that much, honestly, depending. We may see some kind of crazy green human or something, or a 1-drop white creature, that is much better than anything we're playing. I highly doubt that, though. It looks like the set is trending away from aggro and sort of a little bit more spell and artifact based like Kaladesh was, so we'll have to wait and see, obviously, but I don't think this list will change a whole lot. It seems fairly safe to me. The deck is capable of some really impressive turn sequences sequences, and they're all pretty easy to pick out. You know, turn 1, 1 drop, turn 2, 2 1 drops, turn 3, let's just say Always Watching, turn 4, Heron's Grace Champion. Or you could have done, you know, turn 1, 1 drop, turn 2, 2 drop, Thalia's Lieutenant, boost the 1 drop. Turn 3, play a 2 drop and a 1 drop, turn 4, Heron's Grace Champion. And it's not like this is Christmas land. I mean, the deck is designed to pull exactly these turn sequences off, and they get pretty impressive. You'll be swinging, you know, 12 to 16 lifelink on turn 4 sometimes, and that's just really hard to deal with. Think of Heron's Grace Champion as sort of our Reckless Bushwhacker in this deck. Sure, it costs an extra mana, but it also has the lifelink, so against other aggro decks especially, this will help us out to a large degree, put us right back in the game, and deal a bunch of damage to them all at one time. And because Heron's Grace Champion has the flash, then you can really catch your opponent off guard and blow them out when they didn't expect it. Especially the first couple of games people see you playing this deck, almost no one expects HGC, even if they know there's humans in the deck. Most people will expect Gideon on turn 4, and if you had the money, definitely add Gideon. Add Smuggler's Copter, maybe, I guess, if you had the money, but Gideon you want to add. Most people are going to be expecting him, and he's a great play on turn 4, but he's not the Reckless Bushwhacker level blowout that Heron's Grace Champion is, and you will surprise people. I'm going to reiterate one more time that there's not a whole lot of mass removal in this format right now, and we're in a format where we have things like Blue-White Flash, we have Green-Black Delirium, we have Aetherworks, and Aetherworks is the worst case scenario because it can sometimes pull off a turn 4 Emrakul. That's the worst thing we can have to deal with. Otherwise, we'll be getting to turn 5, 6, 7, and the longer we go on, the more creatures we'll be generating without even having to draw creatures. We can get a fairly big board because no one's playing a whole lot of mass removal. The longer the game goes on, the more it can get in our favor, and if we start getting a low life total, Heron's Grace Champion can come in and fix that for us in a flash, literally, haha. So try it out, and let me know how you felt about it down there in the sideboard, and I will catch you guys next time. If you enjoyed the content, like the content, that helps me out like an awful lot. You can also obviously hit subscribe, share the video if you're into that kind of stuff, and then hit the bell next to the subscribe button to make sure that you're notified whenever I put out a new video, because hey, don't you want that? In any case, I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.